just to get us going. So, all right, so with the Daves, let's get rolling here. So, Dave A, can you, the common securitization platform is obviously a key, and making sure that that's up and running is pretty critical as we move forward to the launch. But can you give us a little bit of an update on kind of how the testing process is going, how you're comfortable you are with that, and also maybe touch on some of the milestones and the schedule from between now, kind of the big milestones that we need to accomplish going forward here.
Yeah, we'll do. Big picture, we're very comfortable with the progress the platform has made. Everything is on track for June, so we're trending in a very positive direction. As a reminder, and Shankar had referenced this in some of his commentary, the platform's actually been up and running with Freddie Mac doing single class production for over 2 years. Total issuance is north of $1 trillion. There's about $2 trillion that's outstanding today on the platform, where we're handling the bond administration functions. And the CSS and the Freddie Mac team have developed a very good partnership. And I think we've proven out pretty clearly over these past 2 years that we're running a solid and safe and sound operation. Obviously, when you move to go live with UMBS, the platform picks up additional functionality, and it also picks up Fannie Mae in terms of a very important additional participant to the platform's operations. So where we sit today is that we're actually in parallel with both Fannie and Freddie. And what parallel means is that at CSS, we are mimicking day-in-the-life operations, and we are comparing our output to the actual activity that's going on at both Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And the very positive outcomes is that the results that we expected related to the UMBS security are indeed occurring, and we are reconciling very closely with the daily activity that's occurring at Fannie and Freddie. So this is a critical phase. We started it back in November, and this is the last critical phase of testing. We've done various forms of testing that all lead up to this parallel that at CSS we really consider production. We are executing all of our controls, and we are executing all of our system performance attributes as if we are running the UMBS. We are in full practice mode for the June launch. Some other critical things that we've tested prior to parallel and that we are doing in parallel, it's very important to, I'll call it, stress test your systems and operations. So we've done pretty thorough performance testing to make sure that the platform and our operations teams can manage through extreme volume scenarios. We also have numerous third parties that the platform needs to interact with. And we've successfully completed all the critical testing with those third parties. So a primary illustration there would be the New York Fed. We are, I like to look at it as the single source of success for this initiative. And what that does is that puts an enormous amount of reliability on the integrity of our platform. And we have to be strong in terms of business continuity and disaster recovery. We ran a live failover in parallel. So we actually took down our primary operations, our primary technology and data centers. We failed that over within a 4-hour time period and successfully brought up operations in parallel at our remote data locations, data center locations, and we ran operations out of our California facilities. So all the core activities going well, and we have an excellent track record in terms of continuity and disaster recovery at this point. So very, very positive in terms of where we are at this point.
So no, that's actually fantastic, and I'd be surprised to see the show of hands of many institutions that could fail over live like that in 4 hours and kind of recover. So it's just a tremendous accomplishment And that's one of those benefits, I think, of starting from scratch a little bit there, right?
And it's important, yes, the resiliency can get structured in ways that aren't dependent upon some legacy systems.
Right.
And I do want to point out is that the partnership with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac is critical to all these things occurring. The testing relationships, whether it's in parallel, prior to parallel, performance, it's been a tri-party effort from the start. And it's that confidence that all the teams have built in each other that gives us a strong credence and a strong comfort as we're going into June.
Yeah. Okay, maybe Dave Benson, if you could, as the board chair, any other thoughts that you'd have about kind of the progress that CSS is making kind of this process?
Yeah, absolutely. We had a conference, it was about a year ago, and I think at the time there was more there was more uncertainty, I think, in not so much necessarily on our parts, but I think in terms of the industry, in terms of the timing and whether this thing was going to come off in a way. And we felt pretty good about what we had planned for, but I think we even realized at that time that there were several milestones that needed to get hit, and they were not insignificant. And so the report that you just heard from Dave is the culmination of hitting a series of milestones over the course of, well, it's been a few years, but even in the last year, having to do an amazing amount of work to be able to make this happen. And everything is systems go. We are going to be going live. I think last year when we talked about that, we said we think we're in good shape to be able to get there, but there was still a certain amount of uncertainty, and that uncertainty has obviously closed a ton over the course of the last year. And I think we're fully ready to see this happen on the 3rd of June. From a board perspective, really it's been a really nice working relationship between the two enterprises, Fannie and Freddie, FHFA, the CSS personnel. It's been an unusually unique opportunity to be able to work, with with a competitor, to be able to work in a collaborative way, to be able to get something of this import done. The board takes all of this very seriously. You can imagine that before either Fannie or Freddie would be willing to allow a significant part of their operations to be sent over into what effectively is a third party that we've created. There's a number of steps that go into ensuring that that's going to go off well. All of the things that you would expect, whether it's SOX testing, if it's failover, if it's cybersecurity, all of the things that you would expect that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac would each need to be individually convinced we're going to work 100%, have been a part of the process that we've had to engage in. So the governance process is strong. You've got the board of CSS, you've got the individual boards of Fannie and Freddie, you've got FHFA. All of them are keyed on ensuring that we do go live, and once we go live, that it's done with the highest amount of safety and confidence. And I think we're well on that track. So, first off, I'd like to say, because this will probably be the last conference of this type we do before we go live, but congratulations to everyone involved. It's really been a unique and a wonderful experience to be a part of.
Thanks, Dave. I'm going to stick with Dave Benson for another one, which is maybe tell us, the other big thing that had to be ready was kind of all the participants, right? All the industry stakeholders and everybody, being ready to do that. Mm-hmm. And so, obviously, we've made some progress, but maybe what's your take on kind of how the industry's doing, and how are we measuring that response or readiness?
Yeah, so it was kind of, again, hearkening back to a year ago, we had kind of almost like a war map of the whole industry and the various constituencies and stakeholders that sort of needed to be up to speed and at a level of readiness that would equate to the timing of when we were going to go live here. And so we knew we knew the major participants, we knew the minor and moderate participants, and had it all laid out. And I think for most of the people in this room, either directly or through your organizations have been part of a process of communication with all of us throughout all of this time, which goes back well before even a year ago, but has certainly over the last year really accelerated, of communication to ensure that all of you are prepared to be able to deal in this new UMBS market operationally and otherwise. The information that we have back from the various stakeholder groups is that in mass that we're in very, very good shape. We don't have significant concerns at this point that participants in any major form have an issue with being able to do that in June. We think there's been enormous progress, I'd say, over the course of the last 9 months on that in various circles, where as it became more and more apparent that the date was going to be hit in June, that all of you became that much more keen on ensuring that you were ready to go. So all of that information, really, has said to us that we've got not only CSS that's ready to go and Fannie and Freddie that's ready to go, but that the entire industry, be it investors, lenders, vendors, they're all of the key stakeholders are yes. I know we have one significant milestone that's yet to occur, which we hope will occur later in the week.
Yep. Before the end of the week. Before the end of the week. Okay, great. Thank you, Dave. So, Mike, the other big thing for Freddie is the exchange, right? Exchanging the goals for the new UMBS. And I think, as Shankar had put up on the screen, there's a session that's going to go into a good deal more discussion and detail on that. But why don't you give us a sense of your thoughts about how soon folks are likely to exchange to exchange the gold securities? When would that start? When do you see it going? How do you guys think about the capacity, and what's your confidence in the ability to kind of handle the volumes? Obviously, there are a couple of trillion of those bonds out there. So, and then the final one is kind of, obviously a big holder of these is the Federal Reserve, and how have they been engaging, and what do you think that they're likely to do, if you can speculate there?
Well, Bob, predicting exactly what market participants, especially the Fed's going to do is difficult at the end of the day.
That's why I asked you.
But I think if we sort of segment the portfolio, segment the market overall, and maybe on one side we have obviously buy and hold investors, and the buy and hold investors are probably going to be slow to exchange, and in fact some of the buy and hold investors we've talked to may never exchange. On the other side, we've got money managers and investors that trade their portfolios a little bit more actively. And I think these investors are more likely to exchange their securities. And the part of the market that we think will get exchanged first is a TBA and the low payout pools. But again, there's parts of those portfolios that these money managers have and others that they may not exchange for quite a while based on the prices that they get on gold securities, especially on the specifieds and so forth. We have done surveys of the market, and I'd say what the respondents have replied overall is about 2/3 of the respondents have said they plan to exchange within the first 6 months after we announce the exchange portal exchange window is open. And we plan on doing that about a month ahead of the June go live date. And so we plan on keeping an offer open for the foreseeable future. The overall offers that we're planning on making, we've actually been publishing for the last couple months, 3 months. And actually been publishing it weekly. Float pricing, float compensation is part of the overall exchange. And again, it's pretty detailed if you haven't looked at it yet. When we ultimately, these are indicative pricing at this point, but ultimately they're going to be daily pricing that we're going to put out there for legacy goals. And we're using an OAS methodology based on the cash flows of the securities. And in today's market, we're coming up with fairly tight pricing. If you look at the 15-year low coupons, last week I think they were around 2 3/8. And on the other spectrum is the 30-year higher coupon securities, up in coupon, and they're probably 2 7/8. So a fairly tight range that we're seeing. And again, we're going to keep that. Our plan is to keep that open for the foreseeable future. We're also planning to reduce our giant fees to encourage people to consolidate their overall portfolios. Like other aspects of the single security, we've worked with market participants, investors, dealers, vendors to get our platform up, to get the technology available for exchange. We have a high degree of confidence that that's going to work well. We do think we built in sufficient capacity to handle the likely needs and maybe even higher than the likely needs that we're seeing on a daily basis going forward. There are 2 paths we built in. We've been working for a long period of time on dealer paths, where you can go to your dealer and exchange your securities and then they come to us. Or we've recently set up, and again this was asked of us by some participants, specifically the money managers, to set up a direct path into us. And we've worked with, I think you're going to hear from them later, we've worked with TradeWeb to set that up, and again, we have a high degree of confidence that's going to be available in May. And then your hardest question, Bob, was the Fed. And we don't know exactly what the Fed's going to do, but if there's one person we're not worried about, it's actually the Fed. They're concerned about an orderly market. Yeah. And so whatever they decide to do, we'll work with them to accommodate whatever plans they have in terms of an exchange.
Great. Okay, let's jump a little bit to a discussion around alignment and Dave Benson here. Obviously, this is aligning prepay speeds, cash flow speeds, and the like. And maybe if you could just give us your thoughts about kind of where we are and how Fannie's thinking about that.
So I think that, the 2 biggest challenges I think in this entire exercise have been, the operational piece, which we discussed a bit about, and in which Mike's talking about with the exchange. So there's the operational pieces, and then the market-related alignment issues are a big deal. Yeah. And I think that topic has been addressed in a very thoughtful way over a very extended period of time, with a discussion that FHFA has coordinated through its rulemaking, and over an extensive period of time with the alignment of various practices that the GSEs have been implementing really for several years. So it's not as though there's going to be a big bang change in all practices come June. There's already been an alignment of significant practices among the GSEs over the course of the last several years, and in fact, you've seen some of that benefit in the pricing of the existing securities in the marketplace, where you've seen prepay speeds, for the most part, converge, and for pricing to converge in many ways, with a little bit. I know that there were some issues that remained outstanding that the industry has spoken with us all about in trying to address. So I believe people all here may be aware that there was that the final rule of alignment, at least up to this point, was issued last week by FHFA. Okay. I believe if you read through that, I think that you'll see a lot of thought has been given to setting specific metrics and practices that should ensure a high degree of confidence that the UMBS should be fungible to every great degree throughout the cycle. Having said that, not to I think we should all recognize how complicated a series of factors there were to go into that, and I think that every care has been taken to address every major concern that has been put forward by the industry as it pertains to this. And my sense is that we've given every reasonable shot to indicate that this is going to work out well. The reason that I'm particularly confident is that we've already achieved a fair amount of success with less than what's been put forward by the FHFA as of last week. There were additional enhancements, and I think a lot of this is going to get discussed in detail later in the conference around WAC spreads and things like this that I think are going to really increase the level of certainty around these issues. So I feel really good about where we're going into this. The thing I also do like about what the approach has been here is that I think it's understood to be an approach that may require over time continued enhancement. And I think that's a key feature here. It's not as though what's being put forward is saying that everything has been solved and that there aren't going to be things that will need to be looked at. In fact, the entire process is one of continually looking at what is being generated from the securities and whether adjustments need to be made, and I think people should be confident in that process. The one thing I do know is that FHFA, Fannie Mae, and Freddie Mac have a vested interest in ensuring that that process works for the market. And so I go into this with a fair amount of confidence that what we've put forward gives us a great shot at having things transition well, but with also a process that would allow for adjustments if they're needed over time. Not that I'm expecting that there would necessarily be a lot of adjustments, but you never know. But I think you've got that embedded in the language of what's been put out there.
Yeah. Thanks, Dave. Thanks. And Mike, maybe from Freddie's perspective and kind of your experience, how do you guys thinking about the alignment competition kind of question here, where we ended up?
Both Fannie and Freddie have been active innovators, in the market over the past years. I think we both want to address inefficiencies that we see in the market. And for Freddie in particular, I know that includes both primary and secondary market. And we think it's in the best interests of the market. I think it's in the best interests of our customers. And we think it's in the best interests of mortgage borrowers writ large. But that said, we both recognize the need to have a well-functioning TBA market. And we understand that some of these actions that we could have a negative impact on the TBA market, and so we have to ameliorate some of these desires. We at Freddie obviously realize what reason we're all sitting here is the gold Fannie swap at the end of the day. What we don't want to develop is a new gold Fannie swap. So we don't want our securities to be stipped. And we focused a lot of time and a lot of effort over the last few years, as Dave mentioned, to making sure that the fundamental securities that we produce align as close as we possibly can have, fundamentally align to the prepaid characteristics of Fannie Mae securities. Now, our basic tool is seller mix, but it's not our only tool. We have lots of tools, and we spent a lot of time and a lot of effort. And we will continue to do that once the UMBS goes live, to ensure to the best of our ability that our securities match Fannie Mae securities so that the market doesn't have to develop the technology to stip. You don't want to stip, and we don't want you to. It would be a disaster for all of us if we see a new gold Fannie swap develop at the end of the day. That said, what we also think, and we're very supportive of, is having a regulator like FHFA that can align guidelines. And that helps us. Instead of me guessing what Fannie's going to do, I know what they're going to do because they're going to follow what FHFA has put in guidelines, what the current guidelines are, and as those guidelines change over time, it makes our job a lot easier going forward. And not only do they have guidelines, but they can monitor those guidelines at the end of the day, and they trust us, but verification's a good thing too. So we completely agree with, and we think it's in the best interest of the market given FHFA's role.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, and I'll add just these processes have been in place with the GSEs for a long time. Longer at Freddie is kind of having traded at less than their economic value, so they've been at this a lot longer. But both of the enterprises have been actively engaged in. There's a pretty rigorous process that goes through. New initiatives are considered through that process. The FHFA is engaged in those reviews and understanding, and then there's the ongoing monitoring of these activities. And we think that we're striking kind of the right balance between allowing for the innovation, allowing for the different kind of perspectives and how they deal with customers and slight modifications, but not doing it at the expense of the cash flow differences or prepayment differences. And so that's going to be the ongoing piece. But it's been in place. This codifies it going forward and puts a framework around it to make it more durable. And that's kind of a really key and important component of this. And again, I would just emphasize too, both enterprises and the FHFA know and understand how important it is to have a well-functioning MBS market. And if you destroy that, you destroy a lot of the overall value of the whole system. I mean, that's the one really unique thing that moves this market. So I think there's a lot of alignment within that kind of around what the objective and the importance of this is. With that said, maybe Mike, if you could also give us a little bit of perspective about what happens to the gold PC market going forward. So, you know, you sense that, you know, not everybody's going to convert to the UMBS, some buy and holds, but how does this? Is it going to continue to trade? What's going to happen here with the gold market as you see it?
Well, Bob, we're going to stop. We're going to stop issuing 45-day securities once the UMBS goes live. And what's going to happen as part of that? Well, obviously, there are going to be legacy securities now. And so there's going to be pay downs of those securities, prepays. Number of market investors are going to, institutions are going to exchange their securities. So over time, there's going to be less and less 45-day securities out there. But what's important is that we plan, at least for the foreseeable future, to continue to make a daily offer for existing golds out there in terms of putting out a pricing grid, as I mentioned before, of float pricing, again, based on this OAS methodology and the cash flows of the underlying securities, and that exchange into the UMBS. And so they're not getting orphaned in terms of the market. There's a path from legacy gold securities, if you want it, into the UMBS at the end of the day. And we think that that should support the overall market so that if people want to exchange quickly, they can, but if they want to hold on to their securities, they can. And you would think that the pricing of those securities would then be based on really four things, which is the price of our float that we're putting on there, the price of the UMBS that's going to get traded into, and then the fundamental and technical aspects of the existing gold securities. So that's why, again, I think probably TBA and low pay up will probably be exchanged fairly quickly, and other people may keep their specs for a long period of time because they like the cash flow characteristics of those at the end of the day. And I think if you look at some of the recent pricing of the gold fanny swap, I think it provides support for this overall thesis that we're seeing.
Yep. Okay, Dave Applegate, let's talk a little bit about. So we're on a good path. You've got key milestones. What's success going to look like to you, kind of when we go live with this? Obviously, that's the first measure, but go live with this on June 3rd. What does that look like from your perspective, and what's next for CSS?
Success is about customer satisfaction. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac are our clients. We need to deliver quality service to them. And there are a series of service level agreements that range from daily activity that occurs in terms of processing new issuance and the disclosures that go with that, to monthly activity around ongoing disclosure to creation, how the bond administration exercises work, factor creation, payment. There's so many disciplines that CSS needs to support for Fannie and Freddie with defined accuracy and timeliness. And successfully doing that for our customers is our objective. Between both organizations, you'll have 26 million loans, almost 1 million securities, and almost $5 trillion of outstandings that will effectively be administered through the CSS and CSP platform. And we want and can do that well, but the success will be defined by our customer. And what's next is not, very sexy. It's like hit it down the middle. It's get better at performance. It's improve the quality of your organization. How do you do that? Well, like controls. We have multiple controls to make sure that we perform these functions correctly, but you can move in certain cases from a manual control to an automated control. And we just want to continue to get better at what we're doing, and we want to look for ways over time to reduce our cost structure so that our efficiency stays high and our costs continue to decline over time. And that way we look at ourselves as being a more effective partner and being a more valuable player to both Fannie and Freddie as we do that.
Great. And Dave Benson, what about, as the chair there, kind of what's your sense of kind of what implementation looks like, and how does that, what's success there from your perspective?
It's interesting listening to Dave and hearing him say that success is defined by him as that his customers are happy and his customers are Fannie and Freddie, and then I realized that just about all of you could care less about that. It's not about whether Fannie and Freddie are happy, but what do we all collectively care about and what's going on here? This is one of the most monumental changes that's happened in the fixed income markets in forever. It's arguably the second most liquid market in the world. We are doing something that's big and important, and that for some of us will, in seeing this through, will end up being a career highlight in terms of the magnitude of its impact on the market. So what is success? Success is that the liquidity of the mortgage market is enhanced by this process. The liquidity and pricing that accrues to these securities directly flows into to the efficiency by which and the cost at which consumers are able to get a mortgage here in the United States. And the capital flows, the global capital flows that are involved in this particular market are enormous. This has enormous implications for the manner in which the global capital markets work. And so success here is, one, getting the benefits out of this process that were discussed at its inception, which were the enhancement of liquidity, which meant that at a minimum, that the liquidity of what was seen in the Fannie Mae MBS market would be seen in the collective market of UMBS, which included Freddie Mac, which is a very significant portion of the mortgage market, but that would be a minimum. The hope and expectation is that the liquidity could even be improved upon that. And that's what ultimate success looks like here. Now, to get to that vision of success, we've got to get through the next several months of transition. And it is incredibly important that that transition come off in a good way that allows for the ultimate vision of what I've just talked about to happen. And every step is being taken and every care is being taken to ensure that that's the case, that this transition goes off well. It is not being assumed. It is not being assumed that that will be the case. All of the important institutions that are represented in this room are involved in one way or another in ensuring that that transition goes well. I will say that I would not expect that that transition will be completely frictionless. We have some important things that are happening, whether it be the exchange process, the operational side, the formation of the new UMBS TBA market. There's a number of things that are going to happen, and there are going to be what I would consider to be interesting market phenomena for people to watch and people will view and will be a part of. And we will get through all of those things, and the goal is to have that transition come off as smoothly as possible. I think the markets are resilient enough to be able to do that. I don't expect that that we will get through that without there being a day where someone will claim that a transaction occurred in the market that looked odd, or that there was a price or something or other. And I think what everyone reflected in this room needs to hope and trust is that as that goes through, is not to overplay what appear to be the exceptions, but to look at what the overall direction and path of what's happening is. I firmly believe that as we get through that transition, it will probably be smoother than what people expect, but not probably as smooth as what we would all want.
Yeah.
But I think that's okay, because that's what markets do, and markets are very, very good about being able to equilibrate and be able to find their way, which I fully expect that this will be the case, and then after, whether it's days, weeks, or months, that the market will equilibrate to a place that I think everyone will be extremely pleased with.
Yeah.
So that's the definition of success here.
Good. Appreciate it. No, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think we actually have, through the final rule on alignment and the kind of all the input from stakeholders, the excellent input and the updates that we made to that, I think we actually have the structure to actually have a stronger MBS market than we had before. We've kind of narrowed in, we're focused on more of these alignment things. I think there's a real strong case to be made that the quality of these cash flows in this MBS security is going to be stronger than what we've experienced before in the marketplaces going forward. So I do think that there's some real opportunity here, and obviously combining the two securities to make it one market should help in that respect as well. So I don't know if anybody else had any parting shots or comments? No? All right, it's a wrap. 20 seconds left. Thank you all very much. Appreciate that. And let's get ready for June 3rd. Let's go.